Hello.
What's up, bitches?
Welcome back.
Hope your week's been okay.
Yeah. I hope you've had a good week. Yeah, you can't be having a bad week during Pride Month.
No,
It's not allowed.
no.
I guess let's get right on into it.
Whatever, man.
This week we're talking about like bad omens,
Bad luck,
bad luck symbols,
superstitions.
that kind of jazz. You want to say hi, Amara? You're so cute.
She says no, thank you.
She squinted at the microphone.
So mine kind of are from like around the world. So I think we're just gonna go kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
Is your computer making noises?
Yeah, it's Discord. I've got it
Okay.
turned down all the way, so it shouldn't pick up on audio.
Okay. So anyway, my first one, in Russia, putting your clothes on inside out invites a beating. But like you're going to get the shit beat out of you.
Yeah.
But if you accidentally do it absentmindedly, whatever, don't sweat it. Just immediately put them on correctly and have a friend symbolically hit you. Maybe that'll kind of keep it from happening for you.
It's kind of weird.
Right. The next one, mixing beers in the Czech Republic is bad luck. Like, first of all,
I mean, I could.
beer is nasty, but why you gonna mix two different kinds?
Yeah, that is kind of.
Why would you do that? That's nasty.
My first one is walking under ladders. So avoiding walking under ladders is one of the most adhered to superstitions and is one of many that have been appropriated by the church over the years, if you can imagine. The church itself holds superstitions to be sinful, marking a deviation from the worship of one God and give more credence to the occult. But many superstitions today have their roots in religious practices. And the practice of not walking under ladders, though, is not considered to be a superstition in religion, because by not walking under a ladder, one would be doing something that preserves something that the Bible considers to be sacred. So the ladder that is placed on level ground and is leaning against a wall forms a triangle, and this triangle is thought to represent the Holy Trinity of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. By walking through this triangle, you are essentially breaking the Holy Trinity and violating God, which is considered to be blasphemous and a sin. Additionally, the symbolic meaning behind triangles has been around since ancient Egypt, and to disrupt this sacrosanct symbol was thought to by these earlier civilizations as tempting fate. There is an alternative source for the belief that walking under a ladder is bad luck, and that could come from medieval gallows. Until the late 19th century, there was a short drop method used for hangings, and this meant that those subject to die by hanging would be hung from a cart or a small ladder with the hangman's noose around their neck, and they would inevitably suffocate, usually. Sometimes they would hang there for a really, really long time. Later, though, there were the newer styles of gallows that broke the prisoner's neck, and these gallows had ladders propped against the side for the prisoners to climb up, and then were used again by the executioner to collect the body. It became a widespread belief that the souls of those who had been executed would loiter underneath the ladder because their crimes made them unfit to be allowed into heaven, and so it was thought that one was inviting misfortune of the most grisly kind to walk underneath one and mingle with the spirits.
I didn't know it had that much in it.
Me either. I learned a lot doing this one.
Yeah. Okay, so you know how like Friday the 13th is an unlucky thing here?
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday the 13th is unlucky in Greece. This is because Tuesday, April 13th of 1204 was when Constantinople fell to the Crusaders. Also noted, Tuesday, May 29th of 1453, Constantinople fell to the Ottomans. So it's been written that Greeks even avoid shaving on Tuesdays. Tuesdays are also, this is my second one for this portion. Tuesdays are also an unlucky day in other Latin American cultures, specifically for weddings. In some countries, or in some of those countries, the movie Friday the 13th for them was Martha's 13th or Tuesday the 13th. They have a saying that in English means on Tuesdays you shouldn't get married, go on a trip, or leave your house.
That's wild. Moonlight. So while not necessarily a harbinger of bad luck, mankind has been enthralled with the moon since the earliest civilizations. Though they did not know about the gravitational pull of the moon, these early civilizations did recognize the control the moon had over the water on Earth as well as the fluids within their bodies. The word lunatic derives from the Latin word lunaticus, which simply means moonstruck. And this word was used to describe people who seemed to go temporarily insane when the moon was at its fullest, and this term was used as early as the 1300s. In 1393, William Langford's poem, Pierre's Plowman, referred to lunatic lollers and lepers about, which meant that someone was mad according to the moon's phases.
What was the name of that poet's name? Or the name of that poet?
The name of the poet, William Langland. Okay. Why did I say Langford?
I don't know. I was like, did it just come out weird on my end, or?
Before the advancement of the medical field, it was thought those suffering from brain disorders such as epilepsy were simply afflicted by the waxing and waning of the moon, and this belief created strong superstitions surrounding the power of the moon. It was thought that sleeping in the moonlight was a cause of insanity or moon blindness, and many folks took great care to be sure that the curtains were drawn tightly when there was a full moon. It was also thought that looking at the moon in a mirror or to even stare at it for too long when it was full was very dangerous. And these beliefs became cemented during the Middle Ages when stories of werewolves and vampires began to swirl around. There were all kinds of behaviors blamed on the moon's influence, even mentioned in Shakespeare's, is it Othello? She comes more near Earth than she was wont, and makes men mad. Many people still blame the moon for unusual antics, and it has been shown that there are more suicides, hospital admittances, and crimes when there is a full moon. However, there are no scientific studies to back that up. And some police have also reported an increase in aggressive behaviors on nights when there is a full moon. And some British forces employ extra officers to cope with the surge.
I mean, I've always heard.
Oh, yeah. If the crazies are out, it's a full moon.
Yeah. Well. So the next one, you and I both, me for sure. I don't know if this is something you do. I think it is. But if you have anxiety, like I do, and you shake or bounce your legs, you just got bad luck in South Korea. Oh. They say wealth and good luck will fall out whenever you do that. Oh. This one was kind of a weird thing. Flipping over a cooked fish. So I guess like when it's in your plate, if you flip it over, it's not a good thing in the fishing regions of China. It's thought to lead to a ship capsizing.
Hold on.
Did you lose your spot?
No, I was doing something else. Loose or broken shoelaces. I had never heard of this being bad luck before, but apparently it is the general belief that if your shoe comes untied or your shoelace breaks while you're walking, it is bad luck. The practical reason this could be is that you're more likely to trip and fall, but that isn't where the concern lies. If you break a lace or your shoe comes untied while walking, you should continue to walk 9 paces before retying your shoe, or you will tie bad luck to yourself for the remainder of the day. Since the Roman times, it has been believed that if you were to trip or stumble while walking, that this is a sign of troubled times ahead of you. In 45 BC, the Roman philosopher Cicero lists things noted with superstition, such as stumbling, breaking a shoe latchet, and sneezing. Some attribute the superstition to the tale of the Roman Emperor Augustus, who, according to legend, stumbled over the laces of his sandals as he attempted to flee from an attempt on his life, only to narrowly escape assassination. The distrust of an untied lace deepened in 17th and 18th century Europe, when men sporting even a well-tied, dandyish Oxford shoe were felt to represent a decline in morality and masculinity, in contrast to the sturdy buckle popular with more macho types. I can't imagine that a buckle shoe being the description of a macho.
Right.
But over time, Omens, that was, even Amara's getting out of here. I burped, and I've still got sulfur burps. So, but over time, omens that were once said to foretell of death and disaster became much lighter, and a loose lace was said to be a sign for young women that their sweetheart was thinking about them. It was also thought that if your left lace was loose, that someone was speaking ill of you, but if your right was loose, someone was singing your praises. Bad luck would still plague you, though, if you dreamt of your shoelace coming untied, but if a knot were to form, it was a sign of good luck ahead. If you're ever out and about and your shoe comes untied, you can always turn your luck around by taking your shoe off and chucking it towards someone that you wish well.
Okay.
You just want to take your shoe off and just go, throw it like a football? Think fast.
Maybe that's why Easton's such a shit sometimes, because his shoes always be untied.
Probably.
Sailors are not supposed to light a cigarette from a candle in Europe. A sailor will die because the back in the day, sailors used to supplement their income by selling matches. So by not using a match, you're taking money from them. In traditional Rwandan societies, women avoid goat meat because it's thought that it could make women grow a beard. I have literally never eaten goat meat. I for sure got some whiskers.
No, I've never eaten goat meat, and I definitely have a beard and a mustache. So there's that. The point of entry to your home is the threshold to a private world, and in folklore, the door holds a special status. Talismans to ward off evil have been mounted on door frames since the earliest homes were made, and sometimes even good luck tokens such as horseshoes will adorn a doorway. In China, doors are often painted with a fresh coat of red paint before the new year to bring good luck and happiness to the home. These tokens originate from the belief by humanity for thousands of years that we are under constant threat from evil forces. During the Middle Ages in the Western world, the devil was as present in everyday life as God was, and he was held responsible for a plethora of misfortunes that might befall a person during the days when the average life expectancy was about 35 years old.
Hold on. Pause. How did you say that word?
Plethora.
Or
plethora.
I was like, I've literally never heard it pronounced like that.
It's either plethora or plethora.
Okay.
Either way. I think both are acceptable. Sometimes I interchange them.
Okay.
Evil spirits such as sprites and fairies, or even, it's one of my favorite words. I love that word. Or even demon-possessed animals may be lurking in the shadows, and the home had to be defended against these destructive creatures, and the front door was your first line of defense, thus making it unlucky to enter a house for the first time to use its back door, since it wasn't protected against evil spirits, and visitors were always asked to leave by the same door that they entered in order to prevent them from taking the homeowner's luck and protection out the door with them. After the death of a loved one in a home, the doors would often be left open to let the departing spirit out. And if there was a birth, the doors would be left open to let the soul of the new arrival in.
See, my mom has always said, always go out the door you came in.
Yeah.
That has always been a thing.
Mm.
Like, I have seen her go out of her way to go out the door she came in.
Yeah.
Okay, so in Italy, bread that's placed upside down is bad luck, either be it on a table or in a basket. Although there's several explanations, the most popular is that the bread represents the body of Christ, thus it needs to be treated with respect. Which makes sense. In Sweden, this one, don't put your keys on a table. Because in the old days, prostitutes would do that in public places to get clients. So you put your keys on a table, you're letting them know, hey, I'm ready for business.
Hey, $20 is $20.
Right. However,
so cute.
So I'm going to do an extra one on this one because it kind of goes hand in hand.
Mm.
In Tajikistan, this don't pass money by hand, and the same goes for items like keys, needles, and scissors. They need to be placed on a table and then picked up by the second person.
Yeah, try to get her purring into the microphone. You purring. Speaking of purring. So in mythology, black cats are featured in many cultures, and the superstitions around them are still abound in modern times. Some people believe that black cats are lucky, while others see them as a bad sign. According to Norse legend, Freya, queen of the Valkyries and the goddess of fertility, drove a chariot pulled by black cats that some suggest turned into horses that were possessed by the devil. In the Middle Ages, black cats were often viewed as being the familiars to witches, which is most likely where the general distrust began, because the Puritans rejected anything and everything associated with witchcraft and the devil. Many people today still believe it is a sign of bad luck if a black cat crosses your path, as it means that you have been noticed by the devil. This is something that is also thought in Germany, but only if it is crossing from the right to the left. If it is crossing from left to right, then good fortune is coming your way. In Scotland, if a black cat is seen outside of your home, it is a sign of prosperity, but in China, they are regarded as harbingers of hunger and poverty. In Italy, if a black cat rests on the bed of someone who is ill, it is thought that the person's death is imminent. In England, a black cat is considered to be lucky if it is walking toward you. In both Great Britain and Ireland, if you own or see a black cat, it is thought to be very lucky, especially if you see one on a special occasion, such as your wedding day. King Charles I was so convinced that his own black cat's ability to bring him luck, in his own black cat's ability to bring him luck, that the cat had a guard around the clock. And when the cat died, the king was reportedly devastated because he thought his luck had run out. It could just be a coincidence, but the next day the king was arrested by Cromwell's troops and beheaded 2 years later. Just, it could be a coincidence. This is a little old coinky dink.
So how do you think, since you've had her, your own little black cat, your void?
I think if anybody's ever met a black cat, they know that they are the neediest creatures on the planet.
Yes.
And they're the loudest creatures on the planet.
But they're so sweet.
And she's so nice. She can be. I mean, she can be a little...
She's the only one out of all three of your cats. Now, I have been in each of those cats' lives since the day that you got them.
Yeah.
So, they know who I am. She's the only one that likes me.
Well, to be fair, little cat likes no one.
This is true. Willow tolerates me. I tried so hard when you first got her to make that my cat.
She's a sweet little kitty.
But she won't let me hold her and love her anymore.
She don't like nobody holding her. But if
she's still so little.
She is. And her ability to make herself look much smaller than she is just so cute. It gives me the cute aggression.
Don't you love the cute aggression?
Makes me want to squeeze her.
I do that with the dogs. They hate it. Especially Ellie, because she is not a cuddler. She does not appreciate the loves. Like, I've got her trained that if I'm going to take her outside, she'll, like, sit. I'll make her sit. Then I'll put a collar on her. And I'm like, all right, give mommy kisses. And then she'll, like, quickly lift her nose up and boop her nose to my mouth. And then we got to go. Okay. So my next one. After starting a journey in parts of Eastern Europe and Central Asia, it's bad luck to return home for something you've forgotten. If you absolutely must return home, you need to look in a mirror and in some traditions smile before setting off again. In Azerbaijan, I guess that's how you would say that, it's bad luck to spill salt or pepper. It will start a fight. The way to remedy this is by putting sugar on the spilled salt and or pepper and leaving it there until it's cleaned up.
My next one is boiled over milk. So during the Middle Ages, milk was one of the most important ingredients of all food, and because there was no means of keeping it refrigerated, it was spoiled quickly. People would only keep as much as they would need so that it wouldn't go to waste. So letting it boil over was seen as very bad luck.
See, but that stuff do be boiling. Like, when it's boiling, it's boiling.
Yeah.
Like, we do like the angel hair pasta in a box, you know?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I love that stuff.
And you gotta boil milk and water.
Mm-hmm.
When that starts going, boy, you better turn that heat off and move that pot real quick, like, before you start mixing everything else in there, or it's boiling over.
Yeah. So this seems to go beyond your basic frugality, as there is evidence that since the prehistoric times, some tribal communities believed in sympathetic magic, which is the idea that like produces like. And so a yellow fruit might cure jaundice, and the two things that were once connected retain their connection, even after they have been separated physically. These sorts of notions were first described by Scottish social anthropologist James Fraser in 1890 in his book The Golden Bough, or Bough, maybe, which compared mythology and religion across the world. The idea of the interconnectedness of two things can be explained with this example. Anything done to the milk of a cow might be felt by the animal itself. In societies where the health and productivity of livestock determine the health and survival of the people who keep them, every precaution is taken to ensure the safety and health of the animal. If only everyone saw it that way, though, because I've seen some pretty terrible videos of cow farms.
Right.
They
made us watch something like that, like a slaughterhouse video in high school. Do you remember that? I turned vegetarian for like 2 weeks because of it.
I don't, but like I recently saw a video of like a mama cow had a baby, and then the guy like took the baby from her and then smacked her in the face with it, and then like took the baby away from her. Yeah. On a dairy farm.
What?
Yeah.
I specifically remember there being a scene of where they hang the cows by their back legs, and then they're like on a chain that's on like a conveyor belt where they're just like going through the room, and as they're going through the room, they're slitting their throats, and so it's all just bleeding all over the place. And I'm like, I'm a vegetarian now. Yeah. I was a vegetarian for a solid 2 weeks, and then
I think there's somewhere deep in my bones that just knows that kind of stuff happens. So when I eat meat, I'm like, I get the ick.
Yeah. I do sometimes, but for the most part, I do tend to, like, if it's been that time of the month and it's a fairly heavy one, I feel like I'm getting severely anemic. Not severely, but slightly anemic. And my mom, in the past has had issues with anemia.
Mm-hmm.
And so there'll be times when I'm like, I've got to eat red meat of some kind. I need that iron, that protein.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't do vegetarian life.
No. But during times when death and disease weren't as understood as it is now, it was often blamed on people's failure to adhere to the customs dictated by such superstitions. During the Middle Ages in Europe, this might have influenced many people's anxiety about letting milk boil over, while in many African tribes, it meant that if they were to boil the milk at all, it would hurt the cow and stop it from producing. So that's where that comes from. I had never heard of that one.
Why
before.
would you I don't know of too many things where we boil milk anyway.
No, but I think a lot of it was, because like back in the day, like I said, they didn't have refrigeration, so they would have to use what they had.
Yeah.
And then I guess they were getting creative.
Yeah. Okay. According to an old Pennsylvania German superstition, a female visitor on New Year's Day means bad luck. An early 20th century Pennsylvania German superstition says that if your first visitor on New Year's Day is a woman, you'll have bad luck all year long. If your visitor is a man, though, you'll have good luck. It's also,
man wrote that.
Right. It's also considered bad luck to take a bath or change your clothing between Christmas and New Year. And if
that's
you change
foul.
your underwear between the holidays, you will be full of boils. Yeah. That's a whole week.
That's gross.
That's a whole week of stank.
Yeah. No.
In Turkey, it's bad luck to drink water that reflects moonlight. Those of us who are like, the moon water.
Yeah.
According to the Turkish Ministry of Culture, those who drink water that reflects moonlight will have bad luck. Bathing in that water seems to be okay, though. According to the ministry, people who bathe under the moonlight and in shadow will shine as bright as the moon. Like, girl, I have been known to throw an entire 40-pack of bottled water outside on a full moon.
Yeah.
And that's what we use. Like, the kids take it in their lunches.
Yeah.
Soccer practices. That's what we be using.
Greek scholar Theophrastus wrote a study on human nature entitled The Characters that was made up of sketches of different moral character types. The English translation includes the traits of the superstitious man, and he will not tread upon a tombstone. This work was published around 319 BC, but was lost for some time after the fall of the Roman Empire, and was rediscovered during the 12th century when Latin texts started to be translated. The superstition was incorporated smoothly into the medieval world during a time when the risk of dying young was enough to make anyone avoid anything that might increase their chances of ending up in an early grave. Many of the superstitions and signs of bad luck surrounding death and dying during these times primarily stemmed from the idea that the departing soul would loiter on earth for as long as possible before making its journey either to heaven or to hell. During this time, it was thought that the soul would look for other souls to keep it company on its journey, and so by doing anything that would antagonize the newly buried was seen as being extremely foolhardy. By the 18th century, the superstition had evolved so that a greater misfortune would fall on a person who tread upon a grave. English poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge put it in his 1798 poem, The Three Graves. To see a man tread over graves, I hold it no good mark. 'Tis wicked in the sun and moon, and bad luck in the dark. This belief remains quite prevalent in America and across Europe, and in the town of Brittany, which is predominantly Catholic, there is a walled cemetery at a church where 7,727 unnamed saints are buried, and the church is so strict about the superstition that you can only enter after you have removed your shoes. Failure to abide by this rule is said to have once resulted in a visitor falling backwards and his guts falling out.
Okay.
There was no further elaboration on that.
Okay.
But I felt like including it.
I just find it funny. I'd never thought about it, but, you know, there being a town called Brittany, but there's also a town of Chelsea.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay. So going in hand with your shoelace situation, tripping over something was bad luck in the 19th century New England. According to a book published in 1896, the only remedy was to go back and walk over the thing again. If it is a stone you've fallen over, the text notes, go back and touch it. In Serbia, complimenting a baby will bring it bad luck. So instead, you just need to tell people that their newborn is ugly. Here in the South, we say, "Oh, bless its heart."
Hold on, let me get my nest made. Before the scientific revolution during the Renaissance period, there were many death omens, but this one has origins more recent than that. It wasn't until the 16th century that clocks began to appear in people's homes, which means aside from the sun, the average person didn't have anything by which to tell time. In Tudor times, it was only the wealthiest of people who could afford to afford a complex timepiece. In the mid-17th century, grandfather clocks began to come into fashion in wealthy family homes, but it wasn't until the mid-18th century that they started to become a household standard. These early clocks needed to be regularly wound in order to keep time, and the mechanisms used to wind the clock were quite fragile, and overwinding or winding in the wrong direction could cause the workings of the chime to become unsynchronized or cause the clock to stop working entirely. So to many people, this was a sinister sign. After relying on the position of the sun for so many generations, the notion that time might stop was alarming. A stopped clock became associated with life at its end, and if one that had been silent for a long time chimed suddenly, it was taken as a message from the beyond that a death was imminent. American minister Reverend Samuel Watson wrote a book in 1873 called The Clock Struck One and Christian Spiritualist, being a synopsis of the investigations of spirit intercourse by an Episcopal bishop, 3 ministers, 5 doctors, and others at Memphis, Tennessee. And it illustrates how seriously this superstition was taken. The book is a collection of what we now call paranormal events, which included several accounts of old broken clocks striking just before death, including just before the death of Watson's wife and 2 of his children. Watson wrote, "It is popular with some people to ridicule facts when they have no evidence of disproving them or argument to overthrow them. There are many things occurring equally singular and mysterious, but people do not like to be called superstitious and hence rarely mention them."
So I just gotta say, so my grandparents had so many freaking clocks in their house. They had a huge grandfather clock. They also had like all the cuckoo clocks. Those freaking things, I hated them so much because like they'd go off in the middle of the night. You're trying to sleep. There's a clock going off, you know?
Yeah.
Or like wake you up first thing in the morning going off. It was annoying. But I feel like, and I could have this all wrong, so if anybody in my family is listening, correct me. My aunt or her daughter have the grandfather clock. And not too terribly long ago, like I don't think that they wind it or anything anymore, but it started chiming at a specific time every day.
See, I've got my great grandfather made that grandfather clock I have, and I got that from my granny. She gave it to me before she passed away, though. I requested it. I've never heard it chime except for when I've moved it because it's broken. It doesn't work
Right.
anymore. I should probably get it looked at and maybe see about having it work, but that's very expensive.
Yeah. According to one early 20th century American superstition, all dishcloths should be burned before a move. Same goes for cloths used for general house cleaning. That way, all of the bad luck that you've wiped up in the old house won't go to the new house with you. That makes sense.
Fair, but that seems very wasteful.
Right. According to... I hit the wrong button. According to 19th century Welsh tradition, it's bad luck to cut the nails of an infant less than 6 months old. First of all...
I did see this. The book that I used, I think said... Yeah, I think it said 6 months. And I was like, whoever come up with this never met a baby with fingernails.
Well, so we've always heard bite them.
Yeah.
Like, you're not cutting them, you're biting them.
Right.
Also, as a mother who did that anyway... I want to say it was with Giamma.
Mm-hmm.
She's like little, and they had to go.
Yeah.
I cut the tip of her finger.
Yeah.
And I was traumatized because she was screaming and bleeding. Like, I didn't cut it bad.
Yeah, you just kind of nicked it a little.
It was bleeding like crazy. She's screaming. I'm squalling.
Right.
It was awful. It was either Gemma or Easton.
I want to say it was Gemma.
But I think it was Gemma. Because I think with Easton, I made TJ's cousin who was watching him when I went back to work, I made her cut them from that point forward.
Yeah.
Or period. Yeah. Because I wasn't going to do it.
But them little kid fingernails, they're like razors.
Oh. Okay. Your turn.
Holding your breath while passing a cemetery. Ever since burial rites were first performed for the dead, graveyards and cemeteries have been the subject of superstition. In ancient cultures, the rituals surrounding burial grounds were regarded as dutiful rather than superstitious, and this belief is thought to have originated from a blending of the practical with the spiritual. During these times, there was no way for people to know that infectious diseases were primarily spread through the air, but because of the smell of decomposing bodies, many people became weary of breathing in this putrid smell, and face coverings became the norm. On a spiritual level, the earliest people associated breath with the soul or the life force as a result of observing that the spirit seemed to leave the body with the exhale of the final breath. Linguistically, the soul is linked with breath as well. Pneuma is an ancient Greek word for breath, and in religious contexts is translated as spirit or soul. And that's kind of spelled the way like pneumonia is. Yeah. The English word spirit comes from the Latin word spiritus, which means breath. It stands to reason that in the minds of pre-modern people, that the last breath signifies the spirit or soul leaving the body, and that the soul might be inhaled into the body of a living person. And over time, these types of beliefs were incorporated into folklore and then compounded into ghost stories. Graveyards were believed to be full of spirits. Either they were returning to communicate to their loved ones, or they were trapped in a sort of limbo due to their behavior in their lifetime. It is thought to be more common for the spirits of the sinful to be hanging around cemeteries and graveyards, and the chances of being possessed by an evil soul were far greater, and certainly made it worth it to hold one's breath when passing by.
I never gave thought to the fact that maybe in cemeteries that it would be the souls that are like the more sinful ones, but that makes sense with what we have experienced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That does make a lot of sense. Okay. Oh, so I didn't finish reading on the one about cutting the kids' nails.
Oh.
I just saw that. Basically it just says it warns that superstition just warns of general unluckiness, But there are some that say that a child whose nails are cut before 6 months of age will become a thief.
Oh.
And according to whatever book that it's referring to, instead of cutting the nails, the mother should just bite them off as they grow.
I wonder what Daniel's mother did. Little sticky fingers.
Stop it.
He's always stealing my stuff.
People can listen to this.
Him and Willow stealing my stuff.
Anyway. All right. So in some Asian countries, it's considered unlucky to cut your nails after dark. Proposed reasons for this superstition range from the practicalities of wielding sharp things near your hand at night, or concern that separating a nail in the darkness would attract spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And then in some Middle Eastern countries, it's bad luck to open and close scissors without cutting anything. It might have something to do with the two sides of metal touching each other.
So you mean...
Don't do it!
Way that I'll be at work and I'll just look at Daniel and go...
Right.
I hope the microphone picked up the scissor noise. Never use a crossroads as a meeting place.
Literally every time we talk about a crossroads, I just think about Snooki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As we have discovered, people in the Middle Ages and the medieval times were superstitious, which stemmed from the deep belief in evil spirits and the devil. They believed that their world coincided with the spirit world from which they were divided by the finest veils. Anything that represented a boundary was seen as a seam by which the two worlds met, and something that could open at any given moment and allow demons, vampires, goblins, ghosts, etc. slide right on through to haunt us ordinary folk. Numerous superstitions grew around crossroads, and on the Isle of Man, people would take their brooms to the crossroads at night to sweep away evil spirits. Will you get your fat head out of the way? In the mountains of Germany, witches were said to be expelled by cracking whips at a remote crossroad, and in Bali, ceremonies are held at crossroads to get rid of devils. In Roman mythology, Hecate, the goddess of the night and protector of witches, would appear at crossroads, and witches were thought to meet there. As with most Christian traditions, they added to the pagan associations when the bodies of people had committed suicide were buried at crossroads. Until the year 1823, anyone who committed suicide would not be buried within either consecrated ground or at unconsecrated burial sites. And it wasn't until 1880 that prayers could accompany the burial. For many years, it was custom for there to be separate burial sites outside of town or at crossroads. And oftentimes, gallows were erected at crossroads, and this magnified the pre-existing reputation of being a place for the damned to gather. The souls of these sinners were said to be denied access into heaven because of their wrongdoings, and people feared that the spirits would return to the homes they had lived in and haunt the inhabitants. It was thought that a crossroads burial confused the soul and consigned it to linger there for eternity, trying to find the right path home, which is honestly hella sad.
Right.
That's my last one.
Okay, so this one, I'm not real sure what it means, but...
That pizza he's making smells real good.
It really does.
I'm not hungry, but it smells real good.
It does. This one, I don't know what it means, but I figured I'd include it because I figured somebody might. Hearing a marsh crake over the wrong shoulder in New Zealand could lead to bad luck.
That feels like a statement I've heard, but I don't know what it means.
It says hearing it over your right shoulder was good luck, but over your left shoulder would lead to having crook trot, which was New Zealand Australian slang for bad luck. In Germany, you should never wish someone happy birthday early. In general, it's thought to bring misfortune. But one German interviewed for a TV segment gave more colorful consequences for wishing someone an early happy birthday. My grandma always said you'd have blue children. So, they'd be like dead.
Yeah.
In some parts of Africa, owls are symbols of bad luck. Supposedly, seeing or hearing one of these birds hoot is bad news. It can mean anything from bad luck to poor health to death. Some even believe that they're sent to deliver curses. I've also seen where, like, a lot of Native American lore sees it as, like, if you look at them, they take your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you look in their eyes.
Yeah.
And then the last one says, never mix wine and watermelon in Argentina. It says that combining them will cause certain death or sometimes just an upset stomach. I mean, I don't like wine, but I do fancy some watermelon.
I love watermelon. When I tell you.
You and Gemma will eat it until she's sick.
Yes. I could sit there and eat a whole watermelon.
Her and her peepaw will share an entire watermelon.
I bought a watermelon from Costco. Okay. I quite literally ate on that watermelon every day until I was sick. And I think I maybe ended up only throwing out, like, I would say a cup's worth, maybe a little bit more, maybe a cup and a half worth. That was a big watermelon. That was a big old watermelon. But I got one from the grocery store last week when we went, and I cut it up for this week's lunch. So while my potato was in the microwave, I'd sit there and eat watermelon while it was cooking. And then I would put my container back. And I finished that watermelon, but it was a little one. I love watermelon. Watermelon flavored candies.
Mm-hmm.
I've got watermelon scented air freshener in the bathrooms. So
I love watermelon.
I love
salt or no salt?
No salt.
I love it with salt on it. Gemma doesn't like it either.
It ain't right.
Gemma doesn't like it either, but I do. I love it. Hold on.
I don't understand the appeal.
Do you like tahini?
Not particularly.
Watermelon with tahini on it?
I haven't tried tahini on it.
Ooh, girl.
Maybe I'll try it once.
It may change your life.
But
it was so good. Because it's got that citrusy taste to it as well.
See, I'm not a big fan of citrus flavors. So but I'll try it.
It's so good.
But
I literally bought tahini for that very reason.
I will literally
I have a whole thing of tahini in my house just because I bought it one time. I couldn't find a smaller. I bought the smallest thing I could find.
Yeah.
Because I bought a watermelon.
Oh, I got an itty bitty tiny one.
I bought one for Maddie and then she lost it because she loves tahini. So I bought her like a tiny one to put in her lunchbox because she was literally putting that on everything. And she lost it. Because I was like, you could just refill it with the tahini that we have here. Yeah. And she was like, oh, that's a good idea. And then she lost it. But it's so good. I put it on, which I know you don't eat or are allergic to, pineapple. It's really good on pineapple.
I'm allergic to it, I guess.
But, all right, you've got the nonprofit?
Yes, and I chose Reverb. Which is uniting around music we love, tackling the environmental and social issues we face. Reverb is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to empowering millions of individuals to take action toward a better future for people and the planet. We partner with musicians, festivals, and venues to green their concert events while engaging fans face-to-face at shows to take environmental and social action. We create and execute comprehensive programs to reduce concert and tour footprints, from eliminating single-use water bottles to coordinating local farm food to fueling sustainable biodiesel in tour buses to composting and donating food waste and much more. And I have a link to donate directly, and they are currently working with Tyler Childers, and I have included a link for that specific tour. And like, I think they're doing a contest of some sort with that. So I've included that link as well.
I like it. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for coming to another wonderful week.
Yep.
We hope that the remainder of your week as well, and that next week's episode will find you in a better place than you are today.
Yeah.
So make sure that you're following us on the socials like Facebook,
Instagram,
TikTok,
X.
Oh, she did it! And then email us all your podcast topic ideas, stories, constructive criticisms, just telling us, hey, what's up?
No complaints.
Here's my name.
I can't take it.
Here's where I'm from. We listening to you. I've listened to you from day one. All those kind of things.
Yeah, where are day oneers at?
Well, let's sound off. Do it either on the email, on our social, something. But you can email us at wanderersofweird
@gmail.com.
Oh, yeah. Probably couldn't hear that last part of it. It's fine. Just know that it was there. All right. Okay, bye.
Bye.